I needed that courage like you when we went through the pandemic. I needed that courage supporting my transgender son to become his authentic self. And I needed it to live my life authentically. So when I was invited today to receive your prestigious award, if I did not thank you personally, thank you personally. I know that Stephanie nominated me, and I know that it comes from each and every one of you. And so to be recognized by your peers, to me, is one of the greatest honors that there is. And when I asked Stephanie and the team, so what would you like me to speak about? And they said, well, we want you to speak about leadership, Christy. And here's the thing. I can't speak about leadership and not talk about courage. And I can't talk about courage and not talk about vulnerability. And I can't talk about vulnerability and not talk about fear. So hi, I'm Christy Effelman. I'm a reinvention coach for leaders and teams ready to challenge the status quo in their lives. I'm the founder and CEO of Edge Leadership, and we build peer mentoring and coaching circles inside of organizations and across industries with one goal in mind: to create a more sustainable, inclusive talent pipeline all the way to the C-suite. And in the last 10 years, more than 10,000 leaders have gone through our group coaching programs globally. And so what that means is I have worked with a lot of leaders. And while most leaders are totally fine talking about courage and leadership, it's the vulnerability part that gets us stumped. Has anyone ever heard of a thought leader in my space named Dr. Brene Brown? Let me just see a show of hands. All right, beautiful. So I'm incredibly privileged to be mentored by Brene personally. I was selected to be part of the inaugural group of 50 coaches globally to bring her work out of the social workspace and into corporations and help companies grow more courageous leaders. And what I learned from Brene is that vulnerability feels like fear, but looks like courage. And she has more than 300,000 data points and more than 2 decades of research that shows there isn't a single act of courage that isn't totally underpinned by vulnerability. Now, the definition that I use when I talk about vulnerability is hers. That vulnerability is defined by uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure, which pretty much represents every time I take a stage. Vulnerability represents every time I have a conversation that I have been avoiding, both at work and at home. Vulnerability is every time I own my mistakes. And each one takes courage. My friends, we can't be leaders in our teams, in our companies, in our families, in our industries without vulnerability. For me, courage means stepping outside of my comfort zone. Whatever that may be for me, this week, this month, today, it was showing up here, not knowing all of you as my audience and just trusting that I would get to know you and be able to find the right words that you needed to hear today around leadership. Because here's the thing about comfort zones. Nothing ever grows there. My friends, the best way that I can thank you for this award is to remind you that it is okay to be afraid of what comes next, as long as you do it anyway. So as you continue to dive into your development and leadership this weekend, I invite you to think about right now where you are holding yourself back, both personally and professionally, because we are whole people. And what happens in our work or our professional development or in our volunteer work comes home to our families. And you better believe that what is cooking with my family shows up in my work every day. What does it look like if in that moment, that one place right now that you just identified with yourself, and you know where you're holding yourself back right now, but what does it look like for you to give yourself permission to do it anyway, to do it scared? My friends, we do not grow as leaders or as whole people by staying in our comfort zones. We are like, in the 20 years that I have been a coach, I always say that humans are like gum bands. And I love that I can even use that word right here in Western Pennsylvania, because I'm mostly all over the United States and I have to say rubber band. But like, we as humans are gum bands, right? And if we stretch ourselves out and let go, we come back just a little bit longer than we were before. And the trouble is when we only play in our comfort zones, those places and spaces where I know exactly what I'm doing, when I can execute flawlessly on my quest to be perfect, when I am so focused on proving to you that I am competent and in controlling the situation. Just ask Stephanie about my phone call to her last night. I will own my vulnerability. But my friends, when we find ourselves in those moments, we often stagnate without even realizing it. And we get stuck. Courage is not the absence of fear. That's what people think, right? We think that when we see someone doing something courageous, well, they're fearless. But the research tells us quite the difference. Courage is feeling the fear and doing it anyway. It's saying it anyway. It's leaping anyway. And when we do, we see that fear, what keeps us from being big and bold in our lives, well, we see that fear is a liar. Because we can be both brave and afraid at exactly the same time. I thank you for having me and for this honor. Very much. All right, now I'm really going to cry. Thank you. Thank you very much. There you go. If you're going, don't stop. Sir Winston Churchill, don't stop. Keep going. Thank you. Thank you, baby.
Yeah. Are we on? Yes, we are on. Christy, thank you so much. Got Stephanie crying over here. I got to deal with her later, but that's okay. That's all right. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. All right, we're back on time. We're back on time. Exactly. What's coming up next? That's past. We'll do that this evening. We're doing something different. Okay. I'll leave the area and actually go look at my piece of paper here. Where's my peepers? Take my glasses off. All right, there we go. All right, it's time for a break between sessions. How about that? You have a break between sessions. I'll see you in about 15 minutes. We're going to, the next session is in the fireside room. Okay. It's a little cooler in there, so I'm just letting you know before you go over there. Our afternoon session is Racing to Success with Humor using Smuppets by Patty Thor, distinguished Toastmaster. So be ready, have your notes, have your ink pens, and we'll see you there in about 15 minutes. Thank you.